Good evening.
Good evening.
This is Swancentric Talks, Swancentric Media, and this is an impromptu show. This is a show with Swanny T and Mike B. Tonight I am behind the camera, and today Swanny T is in front of the camera. We decided to do an impromptu show to kind of let our audience know what we are all about, where we come from, and what is our inspiration for doing what we do now. But in order to do so, we want to dive into the backstory to see what led up to all these wonderful initiatives and endeavors that we intend to pursue. So again, thank you so much for sitting in front of the camera, Swany T.
You're welcome.
We actually went live a few minutes ago, but this is our very first time doing this setup, so I wanted to make sure that everything worked. So I panicked and terminated the live feed, but I think we're up and going now. So let's do a deep dive and let's jump right into it. How are you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling well. Great.
Absolutely
A
great.
bit nervous because I've never done this before.
So kick back and relax. We do lives all the time, not as often as we should, but I'll
Right.
take it easy on
Right.
you. My very first question for you today is, tell us about yourself and where are you from, Swany T?
Okay. So I guess where I am from is that I was born in France, in Paris, in a little in the suburbs of Paris, about 30 minutes from there.
Okay.
And yeah, and as you said, my name is Swany. T. What is T? Is Tzipora. It's my Hebrew name. So my name is really Swany Tzipora. That was given when I was born, and this is who I am.
Well, we're going to talk about the Hebrew aspect of things, but before we jump to that, growing up in France, I've never been to France myself, but I have heard so many wonderful things about France. As a child growing up, I know that a lot of entertainment artists relocated to France because they felt that Paris specifically, was a little bit more accepting with diversity and culture. Tell me,
Right.
what was it like for you as a young child growing up in Paris?
For me, well, I have only happy memories. Growing up, I had a very, very happy childhood. I went to public schools and ended up learning, going up to all the way to high school, where I went to a Jewish school actually until I was 14. But it was very diverse, like you said. I had many friends that were Jewish, non-Jewish, and everyone was friendly to each other. And I have the best memories growing up, going to the forest near where I live with my dad, and we did many, many activities that I remember very fondly.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I remember you saying that when you were going to school, you actually went to a school that was multi-ethnic, and because it was a religious school, there were meal plans that were sort of put aside for students that adhered to strict dieting
Right.
rituals. And I believe that you said you were actually put with Muslim students. Tell me about
Yes.
that. And what did you have? What did you eat? What did that
Yeah.
diet consist of?
Well, actually, I wasn't in a religious school. It was a public school,
Okay.
but that is the beauty of, I guess, the French system, the French educational system, is that it respects all religions.
Okay.
So, in the public school, to the request, I suppose, of the parents, um, the Jewish students and the Muslim students were put in the same table, for those who didn't eat pork.
Okay.
So our diet was the same as everyone else. It's just that we were not served the same as the other students.
Okay.
And so we found ourselves, together with this restriction that we had.
Okay.
But at the time, we felt like it was normal.
Okay. Sounds good. Autofocus is all over the place. So
Okay.
the less movement is
All
great.
right.
So what were some of the foods that you ate as a child growing up in these public schools? Keeping in mind that there were dietary provisions in place for that.
Some of the food, actually, food was delicious. At the French school, the public French school that I was learning at, we had a proper meal.
Okay.
I remember it was 12 or 12:30 that we had a proper meal, sitting down. The canteen, I guess they call it,
Yes.
and just sit down. People were serving us a meal that consisted in 3 courses,
Okay.
and we would always finish with some cheese and fruits.
I want to know about this cheese.
Oh, well, if you know French cheese at Camembert, we always had a slice of Camembert
Okay.
at the end of the meal.
Okay.
But other than that, I remember going to the bakeries with my family or some of my friends to buy some, pain au chocolat or some croissant. Pain au chocolat is basically a chocolate croissant,
Okay.
and that was delicious.
I can't wait to try it.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, um, at some point, you were relocated from France to a different country at a certain age. Can you give us a little bit of information on that? What age were you,
Right. Yes.
and where did you relocate to? And then we'll
So
talk about what that transition was like.
yes, I was 14 years old when I moved to Israel. Um, and the move was pretty smooth. The transition was pretty smooth, even though I did not know the language. I probably learned 1 year prior. I learned the alphabet and a bit of conversation, but that was it. It was very very limited. Um, I remember leaving France with this anxiety though, because it was the unknown. I didn't know what to expect, and but I remember I was not stressed out or anything. I was ready. I was
Okay.
ready for that change.
Okay.
But as a 14-year-old, you're in the middle of just being a teenager, and I was leaving all my friends, everything that I knew, and my extended family. So I was definitely sad at the time, but I was excited for the new adventure. I was excited.
Very, very well, very well. And so you felt fairly comfortable with the move. Well, of course, there was anxiety, there was nervousness, but you actually had to learn an entire different language.
Right.
Not only that, an entirely different way of living. So, if you could briefly explain how that went. So, you relocated from France to an area that supported, I think it's called Aliyah.
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Yes.
What was your Aliyah experience like?
So aliyah, first of all, aliyah in English means moving up.
Okay.
So, um, so it really means that the transition and the move. It means that we're going up. Where are we going up? In Hebrew, we say aliyah means going up to Jerusalem.
Okay.
In biblical terms, that's what it really means.
Okay.
Because all the paths are going to Jerusalem.
Yes.
Um, yes, I didn't know the language, and I learned fairly quickly. We moved to a place called Ra'anana.
Okay.
Ra'anana had an absorption center where I lived for 1 year over there, and I was lucky because I met a lot of teenagers like me from many many different countries that went through the same as me, and our common language was English. So I spoke mainly in English the first year that I arrived in Israel,
Okay.
because that was the language that I was able to use.
Tie that in for us. You speak how many languages now?
And now I speak 3 languages. I speak French, English, and Hebrew.
English was a part of the language curriculum in France.
We started learning. Yes,
Okay.
yes, we started
So by the time you
learning.
reached Israel, you were fairly proficient in English.
Yes and no. I've only learned maybe for 3 years. I
Okay.
had 3 years of English, maybe two.
Okay.
Uh, but I learned quickly, simultaneously, English and Hebrew.
I see.
Yeah, just to communicate with people.
What was the hardest point of assimilation for relocating from France to Israel? How was it? What was the most difficult point of assimilation for you to make during this
Um,
transition?
the most difficult point, I think, I found it actually in the classroom and in the studies and going to school and having to prove myself. Because even though I was getting a lot of help, I was still I still had to work and really really hard
Okay,
to be successful and to show everyone that um, you know that it was possible. It was very important to me. But I did feel different. I always felt different.
I understand. I can totally relate to that. Were you able to make friends?
I
And
was
tell us
able
about
to
your
make
best friend.
friends.
Tell us about your best friend.
My best friend, actually, I met her in Ranana in the absorption center,
Okay.
who is from England. We moved to Israel exactly at the same time. Maybe she arrived maybe 2 weeks later after me, and we are in touch to this day. So we went through a lot of things and events together.
Okay.
I want to say on the same level because we learned Hebrew at the same time, and we went through everything together. So she's very dear to me, and I am still talking to her to this day. I know all her children, and she knows mine, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful
Very
to
good.
find friends like that.
What were some of as a teenager, as a young teenager, transitioning into adult? What were some of your um, in general, what were some of your dreams and aspirations? Did you want to become an astronaut? Did you want to be a school teacher? Did you want to be a
Okay.
firefighter? What did you want to do? What were some of your aspirations as a teenager?
Well, as a teenager, it's very funny. Sometimes you want to be one thing, and then you want to be the something else the day after.
Yes.
So that was me. I didn't really have one specific thing that I wanted to do or be. But I do have, and I still, to this day, I do have this passion for writing. So I probably thought that I was going to become a writer at some point, and I still hope to this day. But anything that had to do with languages and writing and poetry and creating and yes, that was my dream or my imagination. That's where it was taking me.
I take it you spent many summers in your room or on the beach, just pouring out your thoughts on paper.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I did.
While you were doing this and having a wonderful time, what were some of your favorite foods that you appreciated and really enjoyed?
Well, I want to say, because there are two countries that I come from, right?
Yes.
So and I'm also from a very different um, um, culture,
Yes.
which is the Sephardic culture. So I like different kinds of food.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
there's going to be the food from home, which is going to be couscous every Friday night
I've had
with
that.
all kinds, yes, of all kinds of sauces,
Okay. Okay.
right? And then, but then there's going to be from France, for example, there's going to be la choucroute, which is something that we used to do at home as well,
Okay.
which is made of cabbage and sausages.
Okay. Okay.
It's actually delicious, but I
Sounds
remember
delicious.
that from childhood.
Wow.
And here from Israel is the crispy schnitzel.
Got you.
That is just a staple here.
Any desserts in there anywhere?
Desserts, I would say any kind of desserts, but it's really, if you really ask me what I want and what I
Yes.
like,
Yes.
is cheesecake. I absolutely love cheesecake.
Very good. Very good. Any favorite movies? No, and of course, I mean, I'm sure you have a ton of favorite movies, but just in general, your number one or two favorite movies, either from France or the U.S. or Israel.
Um, I think I'm locked in with childhood.
Okay.
So that's going to be The Never Ending Story.
Oh
I
wow.
grew up with that movie.
Okay. Okay.
The script was in my head. I
Yes.
remember the dialogues. I actually recorded that movie.
Okay.
And I would listen to it on a cassette at the time when I was a child, and listening over and over, and I knew what they would. I knew the dialogues by heart. And that movie just made me dream. Just made me think you can do anything.
The Never Ending Story.
Yes.
Well, I think I know this one, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Let's talk about some of the music that you were around as a teenager or as a kid growing up, whether it was your favorite song or a favorite song that you heard in your household. Or music genre. Anything specific that kind of stands out?
Well, in my household, we had many genres of music.
Okay.
Coming from a Sephardi home, we had a lot of, I would call it Oriental music.
Okay.
Which was Tunisian, and that was my grandfather actually favorite kind of music.
Okay.
But on more on the contemporary, modern, genres, we listen to James Brown and Aretha Franklin. That's what I grew up with. We even listened to Gene Kelly and Frank Sinatra. My favorite singer is Barbara Streisand. I absolutely love her. In Funny Girl as well, which is a movie that I love. And yes, I was exposed to many kind of different music.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love that story. Any countries? Tell us about some of the countries that you visited, and what were some of your experiences in these countries that really stood out, that kind of either sparked the interest or just stayed embedded in your memory?
I visited many countries. My father was a technician in Air France.
Okay.
So together with his profession, we're able to travel a lot.
Nice.
So I visited Morocco and Italy, Spain and Portugal, and many other countries. But I have to say, what stands out the most is Switzerland. Switzerland, where I used to go as a child. I think I started when I was 6 years old. I went to summer camps. Every summer, I would get on the train by myself and go to Switzerland for a month, for a whole month. And that is just magical over there. I would go there also sometimes in the winter, so it was skiing in Switzerland, and it was very special to me.
Beautiful. Any other countries? Notable mentions?
Any other countries? America. I really enjoy going to America. I think it's one of the places that when you're a kid in Europe or outside of America, you always watch these TV shows or these movies, and it made you kind of like fantasize of what it's like living there. And I remember watching with my mom at the time. We were watching Greece, and Greece was like the American dream. It was cool. It was, the whole thing.
Right.
And you just want to be there. So I think America is one of those places that I really wanted to visit. And when I did, I was like, yeah, that's really what it's all about.
And you visited, my understanding is the East and the West Coast. Which do you really like? Tell candidly, East Coast or West Coast?
I would say West Coast.
Okay. Very nice. Let me ask you this before we close out. This is a Swancentric Media, Swancentric Talks interview piece, one of many pieces that we've done. As the co-founder, as the co-owner of Swancentric Media, and our subsidiaries, which are Swancentric Urban Arts, which is pretty much exclusively art, and just media pieces in general, podcasting, and interviews and things and so forth. What is your long term goal or short term goal for the direction of Swancentric Media, Swancentric Urban Arts, or Swancentric Talks as a whole? Just in general, what is your vision for Swancentric Media as a whole?
As a whole, I think it's to bring positivity, to bring motivation to people, and make them feel that they as well can do anything,
Okay.
um, and bring inspiration. Really, really, that is my number one goal. Bring inspiration and some kind of support as well, some kind of moral support through creativity.
Through creativity.
Yes.
That is beautifully said. Any last closing words? Since we are live, and I'm actually behind the camera with you. We've had a wonderful 2 week vacation, going through many adventures. And is there anything that you want to say? Um, current, any current thoughts about current issues or situations that we're dealing with now, here and now, or any words of encouragement for things that are happening in the world today as we sit here?
Well, living in Israel, I have a lot of things to say, considering the last year that we went through with, unfortunately, the terrible events of October 7th. Um, as a people, we went through something, some drama. Sorry, some dramatic events, and I just want to bring out the fact that we need to stay united, even though it's hard to see the light. It's very important to stay united. That's what I would say, Jeremy.
Beautifully said. How can we reach you? What is the dominant presence of Swancentric Media at this time? Before we close out, just to let our audience know how to
Yes,
stay connected to us.
you can reach out to us through our email, which is for swancentricmedia at gmail.com. You can also visit our website, which is fineartamerica.com, where there is all of our photography and art. And through YouTube and X, we are also on Instagram and on TikTok.
Thank you so much for your time, Swany T. Again, I am Mike
Thank
B,
you.
but from behind the camera, and we look to have more of these up close and personal interviews with not only us, but whoever we may come in contact with that we want to share their story. So again,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much,
Thank
and we're
you.
going to close it out about now. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Swany. Film, film, and film. This must be an outtake. Film.